Okay, so today we are going to learn about the model evaluation. Uh, this is very important for evaluating our machine learning model to see the performance and to assess the performance for our machine learning model. And we can use the model evaluation for assessing the machine learning model for classification, for regression, and clustering. So all of them, we can use the technique for evaluating our model. So in this class, in this today, we are going to learn how to evaluate the machine learning model. Okay, model evaluation is a process to measure the performance classification model. In this case, we are going to assess the performance of classification model, not regression model and not clustering model. But actually, it will be the same, if we use this model evaluation for evaluating the clustering model or regression model. Yeah. So the aims for model evaluation is to estimate the generalization performance of a model on future or unseen new out of sample data. So the purpose of model evaluation is to estimate the performance of our model if it is implemented on a new data or unseen data. And model evaluation is required to build a robust model. How to evaluate the classifier's generalization performance? We can just assume that we test a binary classifier on some test set and we derive at the end the following confusion matrix. This is a very common matrix in machine learning model to assess the machine learning model. For example, this is the confusion matrix for binary classification problem. So we have two labels or two classes, which are positive and negative. Then we test our model to predict or to classify the test data set. And actually, we have four type of symbol here: true positive, true negative, false positive, and false negative. So if the model that we use or if the model that we train has a high true positive and true negative, we can say that the model is has a good performance because they can classify the positive. The actual class is positive, and we can predict that class or that data as positive true. So we call it as a true positive. And for true negative, it means our model, our classifier model, can predict the negative data as negative. So we have a true negative here. And what if false positive? It means the actual class is negative, but our machine learning model predict as a positive. So we can say that this is a false positive. And for false negative, the actual class is positive, but our machine learning model or classifier model predict it as negative. So we really hope that these values for false positive and false negative is low, but for the true positive and true negative is high. From this confusion matrix, actually we can calculate or we can assess the performance of our machine learning model. Okay, so there are metrics for classifiers evaluation. We have a lot of metrics here, and the common matrix is accuracy. So the accuracy equal true positive plus true negative divided by all of the positive class and all of the negative class. This is a very common matrix for classification model. But actually, there are some disadvantages if we use the accuracy because we don't know the distribution of our data set for each class. There are some cases that our data set is unbalanced, imbalanced. It means we have positive and negative, and the number of positive data set is greater than the number of negative data set. So we can say that it is a imbalanced data set. So if we use the accuracy for assessing the model for classifying the imbalanced data set, so actually the accuracy is not really present the actual performance of our model. I will give you an example. If we have a data, yeah, that contain 90 positive and 10 negative. Okay. Then our model, yeah, the model that we built for classifying this data set, yeah, we can just build a model, a very simple model. If, yeah, the class, yeah, if the class negative and or class positive, yeah, then the predict is positive. Yeah, it means all of the data we will predict it as positives. It means the negatives here will be also positive. All of the data, yeah, will be classified to positives, because we know that the positives data set or positives observation is more than the negatives observation. So if we calculate the accuracy for this model, yeah, the accuracy will be 90%, right? Because it can classify the positives class as positive. So the number of true positive is 90, but the number of true negatives is 0. If we use the accuracy for assessing this model, yeah, it will give us a good accuracy. But actually, it does not present, or it does not, yeah, present the actual performance, because all of the data will be classified as positives. Yeah. So the accuracy is good, yeah, if we have a balanced data set, yeah. But if we have imbalanced data set, we cannot use accuracy for assessing the model. Okay. So we also have error. Error, it means, yeah, 1 minus accuracy, yeah, false positive plus false negative divided by the number of positive plus negative. And for the precision, precision equal true positive divided by true positive plus false positive. Yeah. So this one, precision, it's can be good for assessing the model that want to classify the imbalanced data set. Yeah. That's why we have precision here for assessing the model for for imbalanced data set. Okay. And we also have recall sensitivity and true positive rate equal true positive divided by the number of positive. And you can also have the false positive rate, yeah, equal false positive divided by negative. And specificity, it means, yeah, true negative divided by the number of negative, or it can be 1 minus the false positive rate. And the last one, actually the F1 score is the most accurate, yeah, the most accurate metrics for assessing the machine learning model. So F1 score equals 2 multiplied by precision times recall divided by precision plus recall, because this one, the F1 score, will considering the number of precision and also recall or sensitivity. So this one, actually the F1 score is the best metrics for assessing all of the classification model. Okay, if we have imbalanced data set, yeah, we can use the F1 score for assessing the model. Okay. Okay. So yeah, for multi-class classification, the accuracy, it can be the correctly classified object divided by the number of object, yeah. Yeah, it similar with this one actually. Yeah. So for multi-class classification, we will have matrix, yeah, confusion matrix with the shape of n times n. N, it means the number of the class, right? Because this one we only have 2 classes, positive and negative. But if we have more than 2 classes, so the confusion matrix, yeah, the shape of the confusion matrix will be n times n. Okay. And precision and recall for a certain class can be calculated by assuming that the class is positive class and the remaining classes are negative class. So how to calculate the precision and recall for multi-class classification problem? For example, we have 3 classes, yeah, A, B, C. Yeah, we have three types of classes. Then we want to calculate the precision and recall for this model for classifying this data set. So to calculate the precision recall, yeah, so let's say that the A will be positive, yeah, then the B and C will be negative. So we can assume that the A, yeah, is a positive class, and B and B or C, B and C will be the negative class. Then we can calculate the precision for class A. Then if we want to calculate the precision of the class B, we can assume that the B is positive, and also the C, the yeah, the C and wait, the C and A will be negative. Okay, so we can calculate the precision of the B classes. Then after we get the precision for each class, we can calculate the average. Yeah. So for example, the precision of class A is 90%, then the precision of B is 80%, and the precision of C is 90%. So we can just sum all of the values divided by 3. Yeah, and that's how to calculate the precision and recall for multi-class classification. Okay. And how to estimate the metrics? Yeah, we can use the training data. Yeah, and we can also use the independent test data. Yeah, and there are other methods here: hold out method, k-fold cross validation, and leave one out method. So actually we will learn these 5 data or these 5 methods, yeah, for estimating the metrics. Yeah, actually before our course today, we already estimate the metrics for our machine learning model, for our classification model. For example, we can split the data that we have into training set and testing set, right? Then we will estimate, yeah, the performance for our model by using the testing data, right? That is a very common method for assessing the model. We divide the data set into 2 parts, yeah, the training set and testing set. Then we use the training set for train our model. Then after we get a trained model, then we will apply that model for classifying the testing data. Yeah, it's very common. It's very common a method for assessing our model using the testing data. But actually we can use others method, yeah, for estimate, yeah, the metrics for our machine learning model. And these 5 method, yeah, we will discuss it for this course. So actually we have others method for assessing the metrics for our classification model. Okay, so yeah, the first method for estimating the model, the classifier model, is using the training set only. This is very naive, yeah. It's very naive method because we estimate or we calculate the performance for our model based on the training set. So we don't split the data set into training set and testing set, but we use the training set for train the model and also test the model, right? This is not very a good method, right? Because we only use the training set for building the model and also testing the model. Yeah. Why it is not good for estimating the model? Because new data will probably not be exactly the same as the training data. Because the new data, the testing data, it can be different with our training data. So if it is happen, so we cannot build a regular method. The model that we build cannot regularize the problem. So it means, yeah, the testing set will be different with the training set. Yeah, that's why we cannot use this method for assessing our matrix. But what if we only have a very limited data? Yeah, maybe this is one option for solving the problem. So for example, we only have a 10 data, right? We only have 10 observations and we don't have any other data. Yeah, we can use this method. Yeah. But if the data is enough, if the data is huge, yeah, so we cannot use this method for estimating the performance of our model, right? Okay. And the next one is estimation with independent test data. Okay. Estimation with independent test data is used when we have plenty of data and there is a natural way to forming training and test data. So we divide the training set and testing set, right? But this is different with we have done before, because what we have done before, we splitting the data set into training set and testing set, right? And we already get the training set and testing set in our hand, right? Using train test split, right? But in this case, yeah, the testing set is not already in our hand. So it means we only have the training set, but for the testing set, we still didn't get it. We still don't get it. For example, in Queensland in 1987, reported experiments in a medical domain for which the classifiers were trained on data from 1985 and 1986. So it means the current years is 1986. We get the data in this year and in previous years, in 1985 and in 1986. Then we want to test our model for predicting or for classifying the data in 1987. So it means for the next year, the data is not in our hand right now. That's why we need to wait until 1987. Then we can assess or we can estimate the performance of our classifier model. Yeah, this is different with what we have done before by using the train test split, yeah, because the training set and testing set is already in our hand. But in this case, the testing set is not in our hand right now. Yeah. But for the next method here, hold out method, this is the method that we already done it before. We split the training set and testing set, and the training set and testing set is in our hand now, is in our hand right now. So for example, we have 100 data, then we split it into 70 for training set and 30 for testing set. Then from this data, we can train the model, yeah, the classifier model that we have. Then after that, we can test the model, the classifier model. Yeah, for example, we can divide the data into 60, 40 or 2 divided by 3 or 1 divided by 3, yeah, or maybe 70 and 30 for training set and testing set. And then we build a classifier using the train data and test it using the test data. Yeah, the holdout method is usually used when we have thousands of instances, including several hundred instances from each class. Yeah, it is very common method for assessing or measuring the performance of our model. Okay. And the next one is train, validation, and test. We split the data into 3 parts, yeah, the training set, validation set, and testing set. So why we should divide it into 3 parts here? Why that is not enough if we only use the training set and testing set, yeah, like we have done before. So actually the validation set, the new part is validation set. So what is the function of the validation set? So the function is right here. We use the validation data for assessing the model, the classifier model, when that classifier model is on the training of a training step, right? So it means if we have the k nearest neighbors, yeah, k nearest neighbors, k and n, right? We try to use the number of k start from 1 to 10, for example, right? Then we want to see the performance for each k numbers. For example, if the k equal 1, then we get around 80% of accuracy. And 80% of accuracy is get by using the validation set. So it means the number of accuracy is 80%. It means the accuracy of our model if it is applied on the validation set, not testing set, right? So the validation set is the data that we will use for assessing the model, the classifier model, when the classifier model is on the training step. When we train the model, then we want to see the accuracy or the precision of or recall for that classifier model. We will use it for in validation set, not testing set, right? Like I was mentioning before, if we have KNN classifier, then we want to train the KNN by using the number of k start from 1 to 10, for example, then we can get the accuracy for each k number if the model is classifying the validation set, not testing set, right? Yeah, that's why we use the validation set. It's like, we can imagine, we can imagine the validation set as the real data that we want to classify, right? Okay, so that's why we use the validation set for assessing the model when the model in training step, right? And after we get the best number of k, it means the best number of k that has a best accuracy, then we use the model, in specific k numbers for classifying the testing set, right? So I will give you another annotation here. We have training data, and we also have testing data, right? And we have validation data. Okay, then when we want to build a KNN classifier, for example, KNN, by using k equal 1 to 10, then we get the performance for each k numbers, for example, this one, if k equal 1, then the accuracy is 90%. If k equal 2, then the number of accuracy will be 80%, for example, and so on and so on. And this accuracy is the accuracy for the model if it is implemented on validation data, not testing data. Then after we get the best accuracy for specific k, then after that, that model will be used for classifying the testing data. Okay. Yeah, that's why we need to split the data into training set, validation set, and testing set, right? Okay. So the next one is, okay. Before we go to the next slide, do you have any question, Kenneth or Gabriel? Still okay?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay. So the next one is making the most of the data. We still have 9 minutes left, for the Zoom meeting. And like I was mentioning before, if the Zoom meetings is suddenly closed or end, you can join again to the same link, the Zoom meeting with the same link. Okay, making the most of the data. Once evaluation is complete, all the data can be used to build the final classifier. Generally, the larger the training data, it will be a better the classifier. But return diminish. If we have a lot of training data, it will help us to build a robust model. And also, if we have the larger the test data, it will more accurate for estimating the error for our model, right? So it means if we have a huge data, it will help us to build a robust model. Okay, So the next one is stratification. Yeah, the holdout method reserves a certain amount of for testing and uses the remainder for training. Yeah, the common method, like we have done before, the holdout method, we split the data set into training set and testing set, right? Then there is a problem if we use the holdout method, right? For example, we split the data into 70% for training, 30% for testing, right? But we divide the data randomly, right? If we split the data randomly, it will be a problem. Okay, it can be a problem because we do it random, then it can be the number of data for each class will be imbalanced, right? Or unbalanced. For example, we have training data, or wait, we have positive and negative, yeah. Positive equal 100 and negative equal 900 also, right? We have positive class 100, yeah. We have 100 positive classes and we also have 100 negative classes. Then we split it into training set and testing set, for example. So this one, we split it into training set and testing set, right? Okay, train and test. We split it in 70% and 30%. For example, train 70% and test is 30%, right? Okay. This one, wait. I changed the positive and negative numbers here. For example, this one, if we have positive equal 70 and negative equal 30. Okay, this one. Okay, 70 and 30, and we split it into 90%, 70% and 30%. It means we have 100 data which contain 70 positive classes and 30 negative classes, and we split it into 70% for training and 30% for testing. So the problem is, because we do it randomly, there is a probability that 70% from training, yeah, is 70 positive classes. Yeah, it can happen, right? Because we do it randomly. So the 70% will be all of the training data here will only contain the positive classes, right? The positive classes. For example, this one, yeah, it contains only positive classes, because we cannot know, because when we use the train test split, yeah, we split the data randomly, so we didn't know there is a probability that all of the training data will only contain the positive classes, right? Positive classes only, right? Because 70% they choose randomly from this 100 data, then it will, yeah, there is a probability that all of the classes in training set will only contain positive classes. It will be a problem because the model will only learn only from the positive classes, and it will be tested for negative classes. It means it's like, you know, when you study machine learning, then the test, you have a midterm exam, for example, and you study the machine learning, and for the midterm exam you study English, or you study other subject. It's like, you know, it's like computer organizations, or maybe other subject, right? You study machine learning, and for midterm exam in English course, right? Yeah, it will be different, right? Because the holdout method, yeah, the holdout method use or choose the data randomly, so it will be a problem. So the solution is we use the stratification. Stratification it will stratify the sample, right? It means we will organize the data. Then after we organize it, we can make sure that the training set and testing set has the same, has a balanced data set. It means, for example, this one, because we have stratified our model, yeah. For example, this is, it can be for the training set, it can contain 49 positives and 21 negatives. For example, this one, we have stratified data or sample. 70% will be obtained from 70. So it means 70% from 70, it will be 49 positives, and 70% for 70% from the 30, it will be 21 negatives. So we have stratified sample. We need to make sure that the data in training set and testing set has the same, has the balanced data set, right? So for the testing set here, yeah, the 30% from 70, it will be 21 positives and 9 negatives, right? Okay, so this is the function of stratification. We make sure the the distribution for a training set and testing set is balanced. The distribution in terms of the number of each classes, right? 70% from 70, 70% from 30, and 30% from 70, and 30% from 30. So the model will learn from a training set, yeah, that has a same distribution for the testing set, right? Yeah, that's why we need a stratification, yeah, to avoid that the distribution for each class in training set and testing set is not balanced. Yeah, that's why we use the stratification. Okay, I think we only have less than a minute for the Zoom meeting, so I will end this meeting first, yeah, Gabriel and Kenneth. Then you can rejoin again right after I end this meeting, right? Okay, let me end this meeting first, Gabriel and Kenneth, yeah. Then you can rejoin again. So the repeated holdout method, holdout estimate can be made more reliable by repeating the process with different subsamples. In each iteration, a certain proportion is randomly selected for training and possibly with stratification. The error rate on the different iterations are averaged to yield an overall error rate, and this is called the repeated holdout method. Okay, so wait a minute. I need to reply in the chat first. Yeah. Wait. Okay. So this is called the repeated holdout method. Actually, this is the same with holdout method, but we do it more than one times, right? With different training set and testing set. So it means we use the holdout method, yeah, more than one time, and we will change the distribution of the data that we have, right? For example, we set the repeated holdout into 5 times, so it means we will do the holdout method 5 times, and every repeated holdout, yeah, every iteration, it will contain the different training set and testing set. And it can be possible if we use also the stratification from that. Okay, so it means we split the data, for example, 70 and 30 using the holdout method for first iteration, and the next iteration we will use the same distribution 70 and 30 with different 70 and 30. The 70 will contain the different data with previous and next iteration, right? And why we use the repeated holdout method? So yeah, because this method, yeah, can be used for generalized the performance for our model, because we test the model more than one times, right? Not only one times, right? Yeah, if we use the holdout method, we split the data into training set and testing set and test the data and then finish. We didn't know if we retrain the model again and retest the model again, right? And that's why we use the repeated holdout method. Then after we get the performance for each iteration, then after that we can just find the mean values or average values for accuracy, precision, recall, and advanced scores, right? Okay. Yeah, we will use the repeated holdout method, yeah, for assessing our classifier model. But if the repeated holdout method still not optimum, we can use the different test sets overlap. Yeah, it means, yeah, on the next slide, yeah, we will learn the more method, yeah, or the better method, yeah, for assessing our classifier model. Yeah, yeah, the repeated holdout still not optimum because the different test sets can be overlap, but we would like all our instances from the data to be tested at least once. Okay, can we prevent overlapping? So the problem is if we use the repeated holdout method, yeah, for example, this one, we have, yeah, I will give you some illustration here. We have a data set here, yeah, we have data set, 100 data set, for example, yeah, 100 data set, 100 observations. We have 100 observations from our data set here. Then we split it into 70 and 30, yeah. So for example, this one, this is for testing and this is for training, right? Training 70% and testing 30% from 100 observations, right? Okay. Wait. Okay. Training 70%, testing 30%, yeah. 70% and this is 30%. If you use the repeated holdout, then the distribution from our data here will be choose randomly, right? It is also possible if we combine it with stratification. But there is a probability that the data inside the training set, yeah, never used in testing set, right? It means we, for example, the data in numbers, wait, the observation number 50, for example, the observation number 50, yeah, for example, this one, we have a data set, yeah, and we give the number for each observation that we have, start from 1 to 100, yeah, and the observation number 50 never used in testing set, right? It used only in training set for each iteration in repeated holdout. This data never used, or yeah, never used in testing set. This data set, yeah, always used in training set, but never used in testing set, right? Because the data will be tested at least once, right? Will be tested only once, or it can be different. The data number, for example, the data number 70, yeah, the data number 70, yeah, never used in training set. The data number, the observation data number 70 never used in training set. It always used in testing set. Yeah. So how to solve this problem? We need to make sure that all data, yeah, will be trained once and test once. The data must be on the training set and also in testing set. So we can generalize our model if all of the data that we have is used in training set at least once time and testing test at least also one times. So the method for solving the problem is we can use the k-fold cross validation. Okay, K-fold cross-validation avoids overlapping test sets. Yeah. So the first step, we need to define the number of K, the K subset of equal size. Yeah. For example, this one, we define the K equal 3. So we will split the data into 3 subsets. Train, test. Two train subsets and 1 test subset. Okay, this first subset and second subset will be training data set, will be a training set, and the third subset will be test set. Then for the next iteration, yeah, the subset number 1 and number 3 will be a training set, and the subset number 2 will be testing set, and so on until the K equal 3. Yeah, and the subset number 2 and 3 will be the training set, and the subset number 1 will be testing set. If you use the cross-validation method for assessing our performance, then we can make sure that all of the data will be tested at least one time. So the data set will be training set and also testing set. So at least, yeah, the data set or the observation is used one time in testing set. Okay. So that's why the cross validation is the most common and the most I can say that this is the best model for performing for assessing our classifier model, because yeah, like you see in this example, we need to make sure that all of the data will be tested at once, right? Okay. So I recommend you for using cross validation for assessing or measuring the performance of your model. Okay, more on cross validation. Standard method for evaluation, we use the 10-fold cross validation. So we have 10 subsets from our data set here. Okay, and we can also use the stratified, yeah. So it will make sure that the distribution for the training set and testing set for each class will be the same. Why 10? Yeah, because from the previous extensive experiments have shown that this is the best choice to get an accurate estimate. Stratification reduce the estimates variance, and even better, yeah, we can also combine with the stratified method, yeah, in cross validation. And 10-fold cross validation is repeated, yeah. 10-fold cross validation is repeated 10 times and results are average. So the performance for each iteration, yeah, will be counted. Then after that, we will get the average performance for each iteration. Okay, the last one is leave one out cross validation. This is, yeah, we can say that this is also the modification from cross validation. But yeah, what is the difference between the leave one out cross validation and k-fold cross validation? Leave one out is a particular form of cross validation, and you need to set number of folds to number of training instances. It means if we have 100 data, so the k number will be also 100. Yeah, it will be computationally expensive, right? Because we will use one data as a testing set and the others data will be a training set. If we have 100 data, then one data for testing set, 99 data for training set. It will be computationally expensive. Yeah. For example, we use the KNN for leave one out cross validation. It can be, it's not computationally expensive, but if we use the ANN or others high computationally classifier method, yeah, it will be very, very long to assess our model. But if we have limited data, for example, yeah, maybe if we have limited data, it can be a best choice for leave one out cross validation, because yeah, we only use one observation as a testing set, and the rest of it, yeah, the other data will be the training set. Okay. A disadvantage of leave one out cross validation is that stratification is not possible. Yeah, the stratification is not possible. Yeah, but it guarantees a non-stratified sample because there is only one instance in the test set, right? Okay. Okay, so this is the implementation of model evaluation. Yeah. Okay, I will explain to you line by line from this slide. Yeah. So for example, this one we use a data set from the iris. Yeah, iris data set. We import from the scikit-learn and we call the train test split library and KNX classifier. We use the KNN in this example. Yeah, for model evaluation. Then we load the data, yeah, from the iris data set. Then the data will contain the features, right? And the target will contain the target or the labels from iris data set. Then we split the data set into training set and testing set using train test split, and we set the testing set into a 40% for testing set and 60% for training set, right? Yeah, it's like what we have done before, yeah, on previous course, yeah, previous class, yeah, in KNN. We set the number of K start from 1 to 10. Yeah, we try the number of K start from 1 to 10. Then we train the KNN model using the X-train and Y-train. Then after that, we predict the data set from testing set, right? Then we print the accuracy for each K numbers, right? And as you can see here, we get the 96 accuracy if the K equal 1 and so on and so on. And the best accuracy is on the K equal 2, 3, yeah, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So actually this is the holdout method, right? The holdout method. We split the data set one time. It is not a repeated holdout. We split the data set into training set and testing set, and we do it only one time. Then we present the confusion matrix, So to know the number of true positive, true negative, false positive, and false negative, we can call the confusion matrix library from scikit-learn.matrix, because we already trained the KNN model, and in this example we will use the number of neighbors equal 5, because we know that from our previous experiment the K equal 5 is the best number of K. So actually we can use 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, but yeah, we can just choose the number of K equal 5 here. So the number of neighbors equal 5. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, so yeah, the best number of K equal 5, then we use this model for classifying the testing set. Then we present the confusion matrix, and we get the confusion matrix like this. Yeah, so this is Iris, Setosa, and Virginica. Yeah, we have three types of classes, yeah, in Iris dataset. And so 19, it means the Iris data, the Setosa, Virginica, and versicolor. Yeah, so let me give an illustration here. So. Okay, so this is the Setosa, Virginica, Setosa, versicolor, and Virginica. So each rows here, the first rows will represent the Setosa, versicolor, and Virginica. And it contain 19 number of Setosa dataset, yeah, and it is classified as also Setosa. So the model that we have here, the model predict that the Setosa dataset is classified as Setosa, and the number of Setosa that classified as Setosa is 19, right? And 21 for versicolor and Virginica equal 1. So it means we have one data set here. We have one data set here. This data set is actually, this data set is a Virginica. The actual class for this data set is Virginica, but it is classified as versicolor from our machine learning model, right? Okay, wait. Setosa, versicolor, and Virginica. Okay, so this one is Setosa, versicolor, and Virginica. So there is one Virginica flowers that is classified as versicolor from our model, right? So that's how to read the confusion matrix. Okay, for calling or for using the confusion matrix, we can just call the confusion matrix function here, and we put the testing set inside it. Then we will get the confusion matrix here. And if we want to get a normalized values from our confusion matrix, yeah, we can just add the normalized parameters equal true here. Okay, so there is 5% of Virginica flowers is classified as versicolors, right? Okay, that's how we read the confusion matrix. Okay, so the next one is how to present a graphical confusion matrix, right? So this is a graphical confusion matrix. We can just call plot confusion matrix here, and we call the matplotlib pyplot SPLT for plotting this graphic, yeah. Then from plot confusion matrix function here, we call and we put the argument, the classifier as a first argument, and then testing set, yeah, for the second and third argument is X test and Y test. And for the display labels, we call the iris.target. Display label, it means this one, Setosa, versicolor, and Virginica. We can get these three labels from iris.target names, right? Because previously we call the iris dataset, right? The iris dataset here, yeah. Load iris. So the iris.target names, it will contain the name for each classes that we have in iris dataset. And yeah, display labels, iris.target names, and the CMap, yeah, the color maps. In this example, we use the blues, yeah. And we give the title for this confusion matrix as a confusion matrix, and we can just show it. And you can also build a graphical confusion matrix with normalized function here. Yeah, normalized confusion matrix. We can just put one argument normalized equal true here. Okay. So the next one is for showing the classification report. We don't need to show one by one for the matrix, right? So actually, if we call the classification report, yeah, we can get all of the performance metrics. We can use precision, recall, F1 score for each classes, for each class. Then we can also get the average, yeah, for each matrix. Precision, the accuracy is 0.98, yeah, 98%. For the recall also 98%. F1 score is 98%. And this one is precision, recall, F1 score for each classes. We can know that the versicolor, yeah, the versicolor is, the precision is 0.95 because we have one data set here, right? One data set that is classified as versicolor, but the actual class is the Virginica, right? So that's why we have precision 0.95 in versicolor and 0.95 in Virginica. Yeah, because we have the precision recall F1 score for each class, we can just calculate the accuracy for each matrix. What about the weighted average here? So the weighted average, it means every data here has the number of data set. The number of Setosa is 19, the number of versicolor is 21, and the number of Virginica actually 20. So the data is not imbalanced, right? 19 for Setosa, 21 for versicolor, and 20 for Virginica. So the data, we can say that the data is balanced, right? Yeah. So the weighted average, it means it will see the number of data set for each classes. Yeah, for example, the data set is imbalanced, so we will multiply the precision by its weight, by the weight of the Setosa class, right? For example, the number of Setosa is 100, the number of versicolor is also 100, but the number of Virginica is 50, for example. So the 50 from 250, 100, 150, so we have 250 data. Then the distribution of Virginica is only 20%, right? 20% from all of the data set. So the precision of Virginica, for example, it will be multiplied by 0.2 or 20%. And the versicolor, because it is 100 from 250, it means it's around 30, sorry, it's around 30%. So we will multiply it into 30 something percent, right? For the versicolor and Setosa, because the distribution for this example is balanced, so the weighted average will be similar with the macro average. Okay, so the next one is model evaluation using train, validation, and test split. Yeah, we will divide the data set into 3 sets. Yeah, so the first set is training set, and the second one is validation set, and the last one is testing set, right? So for example, this one, we split the data set 60% for training, 20% for validation, and 20% for testing. Then we call the train test split here from the data and target. Yeah, the full data, we split it into 20%. So it means the training set is 80 and the testing set is 20. 80% for training, 20% for testing. Then after that, from the 80% of training, we split it into training set and testing set. So it means the second train test split here, we split the data set from training set into 25% from for validation and 75% for training set. And that's why 25% from 80, 25% from 80 of 80, it will be around 20, 20. Yeah, it will be around 20 for validation side. So as you can see here, we have X file and Y file. This is from this is for validation set. We get a 20 data set for validation and 80 sorry, 75% of 80, it means it's around 60, right? 60 for training set. So the validation set is get from the training set. Yeah, the validation set is obtained from the training set. Okay, so we use the validation set here. We use the K-Neckbers classifier, and we try the number of K start from 1 to 10. Then after that, we classify the data set, yeah, and we get the accuracy, and it is tested on the validation data set, right? It is tested on the validation data set, right? Yeah, this one actually the accuracy score for the validation accuracy is equal something percent, and also we also use it for we also implement, or we also predict, yeah, the data set, the data set in testing set from this K-Neckbers classifier. Okay, as you can see here, we get, yeah, it will show us, yeah, the performance, the accuracy for each number of K if it is tested on the validation set and testing set. Okay, so the next one is, okay, we have 10 minutes left, yeah, for this Zoom meeting. Okay, the next one is model evaluation in Python using stratified repeated holdout. So it means we will use repeated holdout in stratified dataset, right? So how to use it? We can just call the stratified shuffle split library, and we also call the cross-validation score library from scikit-learn.model selection, and we call the matplotlib library here. And so this one, stratified shuffle split, it will contain the dataset in stratified form, and also we will use it in repeated holdout. Yeah. So SSS equal list stratified shuffle split, and the number of splits equal 10. So it means we use a 10 iteration. Yeah. We use 10 iteration for this repeated holdout, and the test size equal 40%. Yeah. So it means we will split the data into 60 and 40 10 times, right? And random set equal 1, and we split the data, we split from the data and target, yeah, the full data set here. And we create a mean accuracy as an empty list here. Yeah, this one actually for getting the accuracy for each iteration. Then we set the accuracy, first accuracy equal 0 and K equal 1. So this one actually ACC, it will get the highest accuracy, yeah, from our experiment. So we try to classify the data set from stratified shuffle split using K-Neckbers classifier, start from K equal 1 to 10. Then the accuracy equal cross-validation score. Yeah, cross-validation score we call from this library here, cross-validation score. Then we put the first argument to the classifier, yeah, and the data and target, and cross-validation. This one, this is very important, the last argument here, CV equal SSS. So it means it will calculate, yeah, the accuracy, the average accuracy from this data set, right? From stratified shuffle split. So it means it will automatically find the average accuracy, yeah, for this stratified shuffle split. Like I was mentioning before, stratified shuffle split will split the data into 60% for training, 40% for testing. Then we repeat it into 10 times. We repeat it 10 times. Then this one accuracy will get the average accuracy for 10 iterations, right? Then we get the mean accuracy here, dot append, yeah, 100 times accuracy dot mean. Yeah, this one will obtain the mean accuracy for this stratified shuffle split if we set the number of K equal 1, 2, 3, and so on and so on. And after that, we want to get the best accuracy, yeah. So ACC equal 100 dot accuracy means, yeah. So if 100 accuracy mean greater than the accuracy or the previous accuracy, yeah, or the current best accuracy, so we set it into 100 times accuracy dot mean. So it means this code for getting the best accuracy, yeah, for each number of K. Then as you can see here, we plot this accuracy into matplotlib, and we know that the number of K equal 8, yeah, has the highest accuracy if it is implemented in stratified repeated holdout method, yeah, for iris dataset, right? What about if we use the K-fold cross validation? It more simple, right? So it will be similar with our previous code here. We can just change the CV, yeah, the CV argument, the last argument, into 10 equal 10. So it means it will split the data set into 10 subsets, yeah. Then, like I was mentioning before, it is also similar with our previous code here. it will get the mean accuracy, yeah, for all of the subset, yeah. So it will iterate, yeah, the data set will be split into 10 split, yeah, will be splitted into 10 splits. Then the accuracy here will calculate the mean accuracy for each iteration. Okay, and the last one is leave one out. Leave one out, yeah. We call the leave one out library from scikit-learn.model selection. Then we call the leave one out, and we do the looping process here for try the number of k equal 1 to 10. Then yeah, it's similar with our previous code. We can just change the CV argument equal LOO, yeah, LOO equal leave one out here. Yeah, it will be time consuming if you use the leave one out, like I was mentioning before, because we split the data set into two set, yeah, training set and testing set. But for the testing set, we only have one observation. And by using the leave one out, we can see that the number of k equal 8, yeah, 7, 8, and 9, and 5 is the best number of k that has the highest accuracy. Okay, actually, that's all for our discussion today, Gabriel and Kenneth. This is not, I think this is not a complex course. I think we can just learn about how to evaluate the model that we have, right? We didn't discuss about the algorithm, or we didn't discuss about the classification problem, clustering problem, or regression problem. We just discuss how to evaluate the model. Yeah, I think that's all from me, Gabriel and Kenneth. Do you have any question? Because we have 3 remaining times, yeah, for the Zoom meeting now. You can implement this code by yourself, yeah, Gabriel and Kenneth. If you have any question, or if you get an error from your code, yeah, we can discuss on Google Chat, yeah, Kenneth and Gabriel. Don't forget to fill the online attendance, yeah. I already opened the class, Gabriel and Kenneth. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, I think that's all from my side. Thank you for your attention, Kenneth and Gabriel. I will end this meeting. We will meet again next week, yeah, on Thursday. I think we will do the class offline, yeah. We will conduct the class on offline on PE, yeah, on FEK Lab next week, yeah. Okay, thank you, Gabriel and Kenneth. I will end this class.